Mosquitoes couldn't even live in it, and they breathed from the air. That's how poison it was. You know what it cost Dow to do that every day? $1,000 a day variance to kill 13 miles of river. At what point do we rebel and say we can't keep doing this to our environment? I am a global warming nut. I had a big fight with a guy last night that doesn't think the world's getting any warmer. Well, I put him in my ostrich case. If you want to bury your head and not look, folks, it's changing. Now, we can fight all day about how much we contribute versus how much is contributed by Mother Nature, but it's changed. I drove by yesterday at my home. This couldn't have been more poignant. And for those of you that don't know, I have a pet vulture. She lives at my house free, but she comes every evening and sleeps on my roof and follows my car and eats at my house. She's been there 4 years. So whenever I see vultures, I'm really aware of vultures. I'm looking at a field on the way to my house, and there's 2 black vultures and a turkey vulture there. And then out of the sky comes a Mexican eagle, a caracara, and takes the food from them and runs off with it. What is the indicator of that? 50 years ago, the most astute Audubon student in the hill country would have never seen a caracara in Kendall County, Texas. They're adjusting. They're learning to what our nature, as our global warming changes, our global change. I don't want to use global warming because that almost sounds comfy, doesn't it? Yeah, if you lived in Nebraska, damn, global warming sounds like it's a great thing. But it's changing. I had my brother-in-law here. He came to hunt, and the last day he was here, a kid of parents flew over my house in Comfort, Texas. 6 conures, and I knew because I lived in South America for a couple of years, and I heard the sound, and they came over and they kidded, and they redid and kidded, then they went up and left. I don't know where they came from, but things are changing. The green parrot that was never coming into the United States now lives regularly in Brownsville and McAllen, and is now a regular inhabitant of Kingsville, 100 miles north of Mexico. So don't us think we know. Watch what the wildlife's doing. Watch what the plants are doing, and you're going to see things are changing. Anyway, back to pollution. You got me on my soapbox, and I shouldn't do that. 40% of the nitrogen pollution and 30% of the phosphorus in the United States is all from agriculture. I love agriculture. I'm in the business. But we cannot keep putting out more than the world can handle. I was a teacher for years, and my summer job was a water quality analyst for Kendall County, Texas. You know why? Because you don't make enough as a teacher to feed the kids in the summer. And I was called one morning to go test a well in Kendall County, just between where Kendall and Kerr County come together, the Ray Ranch, to be exact. And they didn't ask why, or I didn't ask why. I just got up in the morning, went and tested the water. I took it to the Upper Guadalupe River Authority, actually Upper Colorado, UCRA. In about 2 hours, Charlie Wiedenfeld called me and asked me where I got the water from. I said, why? He says, well, it's not water, it's fertilizer. I said, what do you mean? He said, there's so much nitrogen in this that you could fertilize fields with it. So I asked him why they had asked me to go out and get the sample. The reason is, the Ray family had a 3-month-old baby that turned blue overnight and damn near died. She had nitrogen narcosis. They weren't nursing their baby. They were using water out of their well to make her formula. They had put so much nitrogen on their fields over the year that the well was totally infected with nitrogen to the point, I don't know if you know how nitrogen narcosis works, but all the little cells it's supposed to hold oxygen couldn't because they were full of nitrogen, and the baby was suffocating while it drank its own formula. When, at what point do we figure out, folks, more is not better? More doesn't mean that that's what we need to do to, am I going to get to do this? Oh, why nothing ever works for me. There you go. Okay, now we got it. Now we got it. Give me some numbers. I don't want to do this. All my new shows don't have these numbers, but I happen to bring this because they had mentioned to me about pesticides. This is a couple years old. At least 350 million pounds of cancer-causing pesticides, 470 million pounds of pesticides that cause genetic damage, 280 million pounds of pesticides that are reproductive problems, 215 million pounds of pesticides that are endocrine disruptors, and that's way up. This is about 1999 or 2000. 130 million pounds of pesticides that are neurotoxins. They end up in our soil, our water, and of course adversely impact us, the wildlife, and everything around us. Matter of fact, look where this number is. This is 10 years ago. These numbers have all increased. We haven't gotten smart enough to change any of it. Folks, we're slowly poisoning ourselves. Asthma in children at the turn of the century was about 6% of the population in the United States. Asthma in 2007 in newborn children was 16% of the population. Tell me we're not affecting them. Do I have the right answer about which poison it is? About what we're doing to the air? No. You go to a doctor. For those of you who don't know, I was a certified ophthalmic technician. I worked for doctors for 8 years. I worked in the hospital. I know a little about it. I don't claim to be a doctor, nor do I claim to even be a great nurse. But one day Dr. Guerra, I worked for Michael Guerra, called me. He said that we had to remove an eyeball from a guy that got struck down at Nick's Hospital in San Antonio. And I was his assistant. I was his grunt. I handed the instruments, and that's what I sort of found out. And I went down there very early in the morning, and I went in and came out about 10 o'clock. We were waiting on this guy, and I went into the emergency room, which I illegally parked at because it was an emergency, and it was full. It was more full than this room. There were people standing everywhere and sitting everywhere. And I happened to know the girl's name. I'd worked down there a few times. I said, "Nancy, what's going on?" She said, "Oh, it's a smog alert day." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Oh, whenever we get smog alert days, we fill the rooms because everybody can't breathe. And they bring in their grandparents, and in many cases their children. And they come in to get air, and they come in to get shots, and they come in hoping to God that they don't lose their relatives from bad air." This is in San Antonio, Texas. So I went back. We had to wait. When you take an eye out, you have to go back and make sure the guy doesn't bleed to death. I'm sorry. So I had to wait. So by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm ready to go, and I go out, and the room is still full. Full over, I mean, sitting like and standing around full of people with little tubes in their noses and everything. And what the point is this. I go out through the emergency exit, and I'm parked illegally in the emergency parking lot. I've never seen so many SUVs. There was a couple of Hummers. These people that are protecting their children and protecting their grandparents have no idea they're also ruining the air that's causing the asthma that their children and their grandparents are dying from. We've disconnected ourselves. We're no longer in touch with the world around us. That was just ludicrous to me. It just struck me like somebody hit me with a hammer. Come on, folks. I didn't see any, Kias. I drive a Kia. I saw gas-guzzling, polluting automobiles, and all these people are in there trying to protect their children and their grandparents. I'm sorry, there's something wrong with that image to me. Is this going to work this time?
Do the projector.
I know. Oh, there it is. I will tell you about this. Then I promise we'll get on to the good side. Atrazine is in more than trouble than ever. Atrazine is the #1 weed and feed in the nation. #1 salesperson for is Scott's Bonus S. Now they have Scott's Bonus S Plus. I don't know what the plus is, but I don't think it's very good. Plus is not necessarily positive. This kills your trees. It kills your dogs. There's a good study going on with Dr. Dan Kirby. And he's looking at a number of pets that have been through now dying of liver failure. And invariably, the livers are full of atrazine. Don't weed and feed. The one good thing about even the non-chemical or the chemical guys, the Jerry Parsons of the world, I love to pick on Jerry, he agrees with us. Weed and feed's not a good idea. When you're weeding, you shouldn't be feeding, and when you're feeding, you shouldn't be weeding. I don't care if you're chemical or you're organic. This is a stupid idea. We're the only major first world country in the world that allows atrazine to be used. We're using over 70 million pounds a year. In essence, all of us can get a quarter pound of atrazine just for ourselves. Incidentally, a quarter pound's enough to kill several people. Don't use weed and feeds, and above all, don't deal with atrazine. It's just one of my pet peeves. Here was some more. Oh, did I go the wrong way? I did. I'll learn how to use this finally. This is a fight when, and I